Welcome to a new episode of Bomberos on Fire podcast. It's me again, guys, Mando. Before we start, thank you so much for listening, for viewing the videos. I appreciate it. You can like, subscribe, whatever you guys do. Pop somewhere, it is some of the things around it. The more people listen, better. I'm trying to bring people with a lot of knowledge and background to help each other. That's basically what it is. And like I said before, if at least one person listens to the podcast or any other podcast and make a change, my work is done. As simple as that. And I don't get paid for this. So I'm doing it just because I like it. And I want to help people too, especially in my community, in our community. And today we got a special guest from Arizona, the hot but dry environment. It's not hot and humid like in Florida. Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough here today.
Yeah,
So,
I always hear people say, that Phoenix is that dry heat, and I just always encourage them to come out here when it's 117.
oh, yeah, but it's dry. It is dry. I'll take the dry.
Yeah, I have had some of that humid stuff, and it's a different world for sure. But man, when you get into those
Oh,
110s, every
yeah.
single degree past 110 degrees feels like six more.
Yeah, and then you got a headache at night or next day.
It's
Just
crazy.
the heat. My friend John here, with the foundation, which is to me is doing a perfect and amazing job promoting mental health for firefighters, first responders in general. John, the microphone is yours. Introduce yourself and more than welcome, bro. Thank you.
Sounds good. Yeah. So, like you said earlier, my name is Josh Grandinetti, and I'm actually a recently retired fire captain out of the state of Arizona. I snapped my knee on shift in 2023 and spent the entire year of 2024 building Foundation Fortified, but also getting several knee surgeries, having to learn how to re-walk again and everything like that. After the recovery process, it was just pretty clear that at all of 5'6" in stature, it wasn't going to be very wise for me to be stepping up and down on a fire truck anymore with heavy
Yeah.
hose loads. I just couldn't do it. So, and that's totally fine. I've gotten employed with an ambulance agency with Mesa Fire over here in Arizona. I'm going to be working on the ambulance side as a paramedic. So I'm excited for that opportunity as well. Foundation Fortified kind of started last year. It's a mindfulness meditation platform that I built for first responders. I've been meditating on my own for about 8-9 years now. And when I first started, there was never really anywhere for me to go. I was kind of searching without a compass, YouTube videos, trying to find people, groups online that I could go to and kind of understand what this thing is for anxiety. A couple years into my career, I became a very anxious person around my house. I would hear my two boys, I have two boys, and I would hear them play or get too loud in the other end of the room. And instead of acting like a normal individual who just get up and see what's going on, I would panic. I would hear my kids scream and assume something terrible has happened. Due to my experiences on the job as a firefighter, I assumed my kids had a broken arm at best and had bashed their skull in at worst. And I would just run to my kid screaming just to find them innocently kind of playing with each other. And then I would do the added step where I would then get frustrated with them for being angry or for being loud, right? And I would why are you getting? They have any idea what I was thinking, And this was all just a product of me discharging my anxiety and stress on other people that cared about me around me, right? And so I tried seeking out a little bit of meditation, understand what that was, and after going through some strange practices and having to go to a bunch of different religious institutions to do things that I didn't understand or agree with, I kind of found my way into what is the mindfulness meditation world. And that's just a very rigid, evidence-based understanding of what meditation religions have said about meditation for many, many years, but without all the dogmatism that comes with their belief system, if that makes sense. So
Yes.
mindfulness meditation is just it's stripping the practice of anything that might be otherworldly or strange, and it's just bringing the benefits of what the practice actually is doing in the mind. And many people have brought this to the Western world, to the United States, and kind of studied people in MRI machines under EKG or ECGs just to understand what's going on in the mind during meditation. And this is kind of what I'm promoting at Foundation Fortified. It's just an evidence-based product for meditation and mindfulness services that's built for first responders, because we just have unique challenges that most people don't understand throughout the world, obviously, with the chronic stress and the chronic acute differences we face between our on-the-job lives and our off-duty lives. All this kind of stress
Lack
does
of
build up
sleep.
in the
The
mind,
lack of
lack
sleep,
of
bro.
sleep.
It's
So that's
horrible.
what Foundation Fortified is.
Nice. So, what do you? Let me start from the beginning because a lot to involve and open. So, you were a captain and a firefighter, obviously, which is different from where I come from in Florida because we got lieutenants and captains. So,
Yeah.
I guess you're the kind of lieutenant,
Yeah.
same equivalent.
Mhm.
And how did the accident happen on your knee?
I wish it was something attractive. I wish it was something that was much more exciting to talk about. But unfortunately, I was just 35 years old, and my crew wanted to go wake up and play a little bit of Thanksgiving football, the morning
Oh
of Thanksgiving.
no,
So I just thought it was
no,
going to
one of
be a
those.
little bit of a crew bonding experience. So we went out there, and within 10 minutes, I had just done an immensely good job on my knee.
Oh
If there's any
man,
NFL football fans out there, we all know what some of those injuries can look
yeah.
like as they happen. As a firefighter, I'm so used to seeing the injuries after several minutes have passed, not like my own leg and while it's happening.
Oh oh man, that sucks. Yeah, no, we it's funny. Where I work, we used to play basketball and stuff like that, and since
Mm,
a lot of people got injured, they actually forbidden to play any ball games
yeah,
until we found frisbee. So we now play ultimate frisbee,
yeah.
and people still get injured.
I've done plenty of ultimate. Ultimate frisbee always made me laugh because
It's rough.
when you're playing ultimate frisbee, it is serious stuff around the fire department. I mean, this is
Yes,
serious ball play. But
yes,
if you happen to be a third party person, right, just watching firefighters, you'd see us just like we're frolicking through the, I mean, through the fields together.
yeah, yeah.
It's
It's
like the
just like
difference
running
between
around.
heavy metal music when you're playing it, and then just like,
Yeah, and now we're into pickleball. It's less aggressive.
yeah, pickleball. Okay, yep,
Yeah,
I play a little bit of that.
yeah. So, and where you went? So you got an injury. Obviously, you went through a tragedy because you switched completely life. You went from being a truck, being with on the crew to shit. What do I do with my career now? And you
Mm-hmm.
found meditation. You found that path to help you. To get something, create something. Where do you went to get the classes, or where do you? Because you say YouTube, but you know how it is. YouTube, they make shit up all the time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, as I said, I've had my own meditation practice that I've been kind of privately engaged in for about 8 years. And Foundation Fortified as a concept started probably 6 years ago. I had this idea that somebody should bring this practice to first responders as just not necessarily like everybody needs to be doing this practice, but in the same way that we promote physical health, because we not only do we want to prevent diseases that are preventable, we want
Yeah,
to be able to be fit
injuries.
for our jobs, injuries. We also should do this for our minds at this point. The way we deal with mental health crisis these days is we wait, first of all, 10, 15 years for you to get the mental health disease first. You have to have it first.
Yeah, yeah,
And then we hook
yeah.
you up with a therapist and some medications. But mindfulness is just a way of kind of preventing these mental health issues and reversing them once they arise without the need for therapists and stuff. So the idea started about 6 years ago, but like many first responders, it just sat on a shelf. I was a busy fire captain and engaged with my kids and my family on the side and working overtime constantly, like many of us do.
Mandatory.
Mandatory.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So when I got injured, it just gave me the time and space to finally go get that education that you're talking about. So I've done two different courses. One is called Mindfulness Exercises, where I got my Mindfulness Meditation Instructor classification, and then I got my Trauma Sensitive Mindfulness Meditation Instructor. And I'm also in a different program now. I forget the name of it, but it's also another
Yeah,
course just to understand how to teach it, how to train it, some deeper concepts. The difference between just focusing on your own breath and trying to maintain that level of attention, that's very difficult to do. And then to be able to do that for other people and maintain a stable environment and make sure that you can provide the necessary tools for them to engage with their own mindfulness practice, that does take a little bit of an education process. So
yeah, I
it's
bet.
nothing crazy. I'm not holding on to a bachelor degree or nothing in meditation, but I do have a little bit of education in it and I have a little bit of practice under my belt. So I just feel like somebody's got to be out there promoting this practice for first responders. And I've just kind of taken it up as my own
And
project.
that's awesome. And all it takes is that and motivation. I think that's the big one is
Yeah.
motivation because I'm pretty sure you felt a lot of pushback from firefighters. Like, why do I meditate in the middle of the call? What do you want me to do? Like, I'm busy 24 hours. So how do you deal with that? So you go into a fire station, say, "Hey guys, practice some meditation tools." How do you even approach them? Because you know how we are.
Oh, I know. I definitely know. I'm trying to get a bunch of animals, that,
Yeah,
that to just sit down and focus on the breath.
all roid out. So some of the guys.
The way I so I don't try to push, obviously meditation practice onto anyone. I just try to, put my own content and ideas out there into the world. And when I am approached by it with like, okay, bro, I know you off duty. What are you up to on this side? What is this, right? And I'll just try to explain to people through different analogies, through, like I said earlier, through physical fitness, the way I'm trying to take care of my mind. And then there's this whole circuitry that we're constantly dealing with, our off-duty lives and our on-duty lives as first responders. And when I first started meditating, and I'll explain this to some firefighters that I know, when I first started meditating, it became very clear to me that I was actually two separate people on and off duty. We tend to think that we're the same person, and most of your listeners, and you don't feel like much changes within your mind and your person. But if you pay closer attention to your on duty life, there are certain things that you just aren't really in control of that happen completely different, but depending on which mode you're engaged in. So for instance, at 9 o'clock, 9:30 o'clock at night, my wife and I are gassed, ready to go to bed after watching some TV. But at the fire station, I don't even think about sleep till 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, I can't account for that difference. The person that's talking, I can't account for why I'm not even tired by midnight, but I can't even get there when I'm off duty. I tend to get hungry at different times, right? When I'm on duty and off duty. I tend to go to the bathroom at different times. I tend to have I talk differently on shift than I would on duty or off duty, right? If you're running into an incident where one of your own buddies, one of your own friends in your off shift is drinking, being an idiot, you're going to handle that situation much differently in your personal life than you would if you're rolling into a navy blue shirt and having to perform for the government in a certain way and be professional, right? You have to be a different person to be a first responder. And accepting that is one of the best benefits of being of mindfulness practice, just noticing how certain things change for you and being okay with that. Actually letting go of having to stitch this constant narrative together between who you are on duty and who you are off duty. Not that your morals change or anything, but just the constant balancing where we're always trying to stitch together these two separate lives. It's easier just to accept that there are two separate lives. And there are many analogies of this kind that make mindfulness practice very helpful. There's no better training in the world for complacency than meditation. Complacency accounts for so many of the problems that we face in
Yes.
the first responder world. But when you sit down and meditate, from second one, from instruction one, you're told to just focus on the breath or focus on sounds. And the moment you notice that your attention has been lost, you're just trained to start over and just re-engage back into whatever the modality of focus is within that meditation session, right? And so you're just constantly training that every moment, every breath, every sound is new and different. And you should bring curiosity to that experience, right? And when you do this more and more often throughout a meditation practice, complacency just evaporates. I mean, there really is no frequent flyer. It really is just a new call. It really is just a new blood pressure. It really is just a new response. Does that make
That's
sense?
true.
It's
Yeah,
the
it makes sense.
ultimate anti-complacency training. And there are so many other benefits to this practice for first responders. So I'm just here trying to promote it out there. So
No, that's awesome. And you're right. It's not frequent fly. It's just another different blood pressure. Another
mhm.
could be the same person, but it's completely different complaint.
Well, and you can practice compassion, right? For every
Yeah.
call that you run on. I mean, as silly
Yeah.
as it sounds, it really doesn't take a lot of effort if you just trade places with that frequent flyer and ask yourself, which one of these two people would I rather be in this situation?
Yeah, it's true.
And mindfulness practice really helps you connect to the community that you're trying to serve. It hasn't escaped my attention that it hasn't been easier. Like when I first started as a firefighter in 2009 to now, I mean, it's much harder being a first responder today than it was
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
And I don't see that as the pressure of the government and as the societal tensions get tighter. I really don't see that getting easier for first responders in the next couple of years. So we gotta train some sort of calm, some sort of attention focus into our minds so that we don't get a little bit loose on scene. The cameras everywhere these days, and so
Yes.
many of us are getting to that point where we just have that snap incident on duty, and the rest of our lives are just ruined. And I think having a rigid mindfulness practice that can teach you to constantly restart and to let go of any pressure, that's very beneficial for first responders. So
No, that's great, and hopefully more people like you, multiply and help out. No, it's true, bro. It's true because we need people more like you in that mindset. And I might actually apply some of the stuff that we will talk today because we do a lot. We 24/72 or 24/48 or 96. What is 72? Whatever.
what's the longest shift you've worked? What's the longest?
Oh my God, it's 48, 48,
48.
24. Yeah, but it's a lot. I used to work for one department in the county, and you know how county wise is. I guess in all the United States is rough.
Oh yeah,
I
it's
was in a
much
rough
different.
area, and I was able to move, transition, and apply to another place, which is I cover the entire Walt Disney World theme parks.
Oh, okay.
So I work for that department now, which is
Very
great. It's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, that's
And
super
it's,
cool.
bro, and I don't deal with a lot of the things that the typical fire department deal, like nursing homes, homeless, none of that. I deal with tourists now, and a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental health issues that we deal with that in that place, and a lot of
Interesting.
weird calls in a castle or next to a
Calls in a castle.
yeah, a castle or a giraffe, or I'm pushing atropine and doing CPR, and then an elephant cross by. Like, what the hell?
sounds like a new Instagram hashtag.
It is. It is.
Calls at a castle. Like it's
It is. And when I was working for the county, I almost quit the entire fire department
oh, okay.
because I couldn't deal with it. It's just I was mandatory every other week or maybe every other shift on the busiest area in the county, and then I was about to quit. Gratefully, I got able to jump into another department, and now I see that even my wife said, "You changed. Yeah, a completely different person." Because yeah, we do a lot of calls, but it's not the same.
Yeah, my wife is actually a nurse, and when she got out of
Mine too.
nursing school, firefighter isn't married to a nurse anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When she
Even
got out of
remote
nursing,
nurses.
when she got out of nursing school, she was trying to make a decision on how she wanted to apply her degree. She finally decided she was going to go give school nursing a try for similar reasons that you kind of talked about, and she comes home and she's always in a good mood. All of her patients are always happy to see her.
Yeah. Yeah.
They walk in with a problem and she can provide a solution to them, usually within 5 minutes. And if she can't, she dials 911 or calls a parent to pick up the child, and she's done. And she really enjoys that form of work. It doesn't stress her out in the same way that many of her other friends throughout her nursing education feel burnt out, tired, stressed, defeated, and she just isn't suffering that same situation. But
Yeah.
it is interesting that the difference between whether you're a firefighter, a cop, the district, the city, the community, what you're doing with that title and where you're performing that title can make a big difference in the experience of your job.
It is, and it's a big difference. I have to admit, like I literally change persons when I transition to a different department, and it's complete like, yeah, it's a different world.
And that's a very mindful thing to be aware of. Actually, what you just said there. I mean, the Mondo that's talking to me in some way really can't account for all the ways in which you changed just based on this change of environment, right? This change in job role. And that's being felt throughout your family experience, obviously with your wife noticing, obviously in your experience, and you're probably happier throughout your job. Now, the thing that a meditation instructor might say is obviously that's a good thing to have those benefits for your life, but that's also the problem with most people is we wait for the world to arrange itself in a certain way that you, Mondo, can finally be happier, But why wait? Why wait for the world to have to arrange itself into a way where you make
Do it
enough
earlier.
money? Yeah. In a meditation practice, you can just find real joy in just noticing the ins and outs of your breath. You can find real joy in just moment to moment experience without all the sexy distractions that we're always trying to give ourselves, like our favorite $8 coffee and our favorite television show, our favorite people all the way around us. And, now we're on this vacation that costs $10,000 and we're here for 2 weeks. And now finally, I can be happy for these 2 weeks. just to be frustrated because your food came out cold at that restaurant on that vacation.
Yes.
You
Or
know,
you're
and
late.
now, so this is the problem with the mind, is it's always applying these ethical judgments to our experience, and we're always waiting for happiness to be allowed in our lives. But you can cultivate happiness no matter what experience you're going through, given enough meditation practice and a good meditation instructor. Does that make
Yeah.
sense in any way?
Yeah, it makes sense. Perfect sense. So let's say I'm looking to your information or your classes. How do you contact with you? How do they find you?
So people can find me on foundationfortified.org is my website. On my website, I have a free side where any first responder, even supporters to first responders, wives, teenagers, friends, they can get on. There's some supporter content on there as well. So there's a free side of my account where any first responder can. What is meditation? How do I do it? Where do I
Yeah.
go?
Yeah.
What is the point? I try to walk you through basic principles from moment one. And if you do the free side of the account, you can begin there. And by the time you finish up the free side, what I can guarantee you is that the person that signed up will actually understand what meditation is. Okay. You'll understand what mindfulness practice is kind of about and how it can help you as a first responder. Now, at that moment, if you never look at meditation or mindfulness again, that's fine, right? Yeah, at least you understand the practice. You have another tool in your toolbox that you can go back to, even if you never go back to foundationfortified.org again. But on my subscriber side, I have a much more complete, much more, probably like 40
Detail.
or 50 meditations, and I'm going to keep
Yeah.
adding to it. And it's only $25 annual subscription. I'm not a very money motivated person. I just have some cost there, right?
Yeah, you need to pay for. I hear you, bro.
Something.
Just being this program, the Riverside, it costs me money.
It costs money
yearly. Yeah,
Mhm.
$25. Yeah, yearly, something like that, and you still have to pay for it.
Exactly. So that's kind of, if you like what I'm up to, you think my mission's valuable, you think what I'm doing is important for first responders. The subscriber side is more of a way of just to support my work. But as far as what I'm trying to do for first responders, the free side is complete, in my opinion. There's at least enough on there that academy classes can, if they want to bring mindfulness into their recruits a little bit, which I think is probably an important thing. I can get into
That
that a
would be
little bit
amazing.
later. You can hit play on my 8-set program there, and you can walk your recruits through 8 different mindfulness meditations. And I have, some intro information there, and at least something to provide your people if you want them to explore this idea, right?
That's pretty cool.
I think in the same way that we take these high school graduates who we don't know much about, and we put them on a red shirt and we put them through an academy, and we teach them physical fitness, health, dieting, all because we want them to be ready and able to perform in their job roles, right? Now, after your academy, there's only certain standards you got to meet physically, right? We can't make you work out every day like we do in the academy, but at least we've taught you. So we've tried to teach you something that might stick a little bit with you throughout your career when it comes to physicality, right? And I just feel like that is what needs to be happening with recruits in academies with mental health. And I think mindfulness is probably the most innocent, least expensive. You can teach many people at a time, and it's a very personal, practical, and proactive way of preventing mental health issues. So I just feel like if we can get past a little bit of the stigma of what we think meditation is, having to hike a mountain, shave your head, you know what I mean? If we can just get rid of that, we can actually do something for not only ourselves as first responders so we can enjoy our lives a little bit more, but we can kind of stop the mental health crisis, hopefully limit it in the future by getting to our recruits and doing for them what many people did for us with our hearts, teaching us to take care of our hearts. Because what was it, 1940s, 1950s, police officers, firefighters were just falling dead due to cardiac arrest and cardiac issues. It's still a problem today, but it's obviously gotten a lot better because we've embraced this culture of physical fitness. And I just feel like we need to embrace a culture of mental health. And mindfulness practice is a very innocent and proactive way of, like I said, preventing the problem.
Yeah, so. And you hit the spot on, because working with government entities, how it is. They all care about the money. So saying the word, it's cheap. You don't need tools for that. Just put a video or maybe bring you to the academy and say, hey, this is the steps. This is what you can do.
Correct.
And like you said, it's when you want to talk to government, you have to go with money at the beginning, and then the transition, explain the word. I think that's the key. You don't need that many equipment. You don't need that much money to invest on this. You just need basically motivated and open mind to do something different.
Correct.
Because we got 25, 30 years career that, yeah, physically, yeah, we're getting better. It's true. The heart attacks, the strokes. Now we're going with cancer. Now it's everything preventing cancer, which is great. But nobody talks about mental health. And I think we are in that little Till Mountain going to more mental health.
I agree.
But it's still a long road. Like, people still stigmatize, like, hey, I don't want to talk about it. I want to drink a beer with the guys in the bar.
Right.
That's it.
But if you think, again, I love using physical fitness as an analogy for this, because there are so many parallels. But just think about how silly going to the gym looks to anybody that wasn't born before 1900. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? You're going and you're lifting heavy balls, right? At a repetitive pattern. You're running in place on this. It looks very bizarre, right? Back in the day when we were all farmers and we were construction workers,
you don't need it.
We didn't need it, right? We didn't need it. So it was why have it? But now we all have gym memberships so that we can get some physicality under our belts. And we've developed all these weird ways of getting it, that we could get in the wild. Well, this is what I feel like mindfulness practice is also a benefit for, is that you can stoke difficult past calls, right? In some of my meditations are trauma sensitive. So I'll ask you to bring to mind a difficult call that you once went through. And I'll have you sit with that call. And I'll have you notice how that makes you feel. Where do you feel the stress of this call in the body now? And it doesn't exist in the world beyond the space of your head. So you're the only one that's really suffering from this call anymore. Even the people that went through the call suffered, their suffering has even ended. Your mind is what keeps you on this treadmill of suffering and destruction in your own life, in your own headspace, right? And so cultivating I wouldn't say negative, but cultivating some uncomfortable mind states throughout your mindfulness practice, to just sit with them and be with them and notice that they aren't going to, you don't have to act. Here you are sitting, and I'm asking you to think of the worst first response call you've ever had. And your heart rate starts to get up. You start to breathe a little bit. And you aren't being asked to do anything. Most of the time, us first we'll think about some terrible tragedy that we went through. And we'll be motivated to get up and find some way to distract ourselves from this incident in our heads. We'll grab a beer and, grab our phone and start distracting ourselves. We'll go out with buddies and we'll party, right? We try to distract ourselves from, and it's not a very courageous way of dealing with our mental health, but to sit with it, with all of the courage and bravery to go into your own mind of what's bothering you moment to moment, and just be with it, is really a way to face it, is a way to numb the quote unquote pain that you might be experiencing from it, and just watch it dissolve. Before you know it, you just begin to realize that so many of these ways that we torture ourselves they're just mental events that are creating. It's like, one analogy I've used in the past is, it's like you have the world's worst dispatcher living in your head. It's always dispatching you to false emergencies. I mean, we all know what it's like to have a terrible dispatcher, jettisoning us around. It's awful, right?
Oh God.
But here we are, sitting, and something will motivate us in our headspace to do something because we're stressed out, and we'll go discharge this anxiety onto the people we care about, right? Or into our crews. And we do this to ourselves and to other people because we're being dispatched to false calls. From the moment you decide you want to be a first responder, you start responding to emergencies to prevent them or to mitigate them. You've decided, I'm going to give up on my sleep and my food and some of my own personal needs when those tones go off, because there's something more important than my own needs, right? We start doing that. But neurons that fire together wire together. In 10 years into that project, you find yourself inventing your own emergencies in your head. You start dispatching yourself to them, and you start manipulating your entire day just so you can fix this one thing that isn't a big deal. Us as firefighters, and police officers and paramedics, we respond to emergencies. And so when we don't have an actual one to respond to, we create one. And then we dispatch ourselves to it, right?
It makes a little sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So,
and wow, it's true, bro. It is completely true, because I've been through that too. a couple of times because I work also as a paramedic and a first responder in another country before I came to the United States. I was in Venezuela, in the capital city. So it's third world country, South America. Imagine doing the same job with no equipment or resources in Spanish.
That's wild.
That's
wild.
And I came here, and now like I said, this country is not perfect, but it's way better where I came from.
Yep, I can imagine.
And I became a U.S. citizen, and I love it.
Congratulations.
I love to have those two nationalities, but I always said I was born in Venezuela, but I get assembled in the United States. Pretty much.
I live in Phoenix, Arizona, like we talked about, and obviously we're close to the border. And the city that I worked for the last 10 years, Eloy, Arizona, Eloy Fire District, was heavy Spanish speaking community, right? And I didn't speak a lick of Spanish when I got hired out there. And my first call, dude, my first or second call, we get called out to a 46-year-old something male having chest pain. And I couldn't speak Spanish. The family didn't speak English. And I was talking to a 4-year-old kid about, okay, ask your dad if he's taking any meds. And I'm like, okay, I've got to learn how to, I can't do this.
You have to.
So I downloaded Duolingo. I started watching every movie that I knew by heart in Spanish, and I got pretty good. I mean, I'm certainly not bilingual to your degree, obviously, but I was definitely able to communicate, and I was definitely able to get through calls and have simple conversations, because it stressed me out not being able to speak the same language.
People open more.
Oh man,
the patients open more when you speak their language.
It's true.
What I work is tourists, so I got one time a Japanese couple with chest pain, and they drink some type of drink to help them to feel better. That's culture in Japan. And I'm going to the room, and they got just shove a couple of bottles, and like, dude, what are you doing? Like you could have actual MI. What are you doing? But I have to use Google Translate just to figure out what's going on, and it was I know how it feels. Like the language barrier is huge.
Well, and that's gotten so much better, hasn't it, with technology? It's gotten so much better.
Oh, I'm glad, bro. I'm glad, because
I doing it 20 years ago. Disneyland.
Oh my gosh!
I never even thought of that. Disneyland, lots of tourists, lots of different languages for sure.
It is international. Like, most of the people speak Spanish and Portuguese, which Portuguese they can get away with that. But once they get out of that Spanish world, I'm done. It's Google Translate. Bring me somebody.
Once the shape of the letters start looking different than the A's and the B's.
Yes. Yeah, like I'm out.
I understand.
Another guy. And I don't know if you noticed, but I have a company called Firefighter Group, and I teach RIT and survival on Mayday outside the US.
Oh, very cool.
That's my company, and the podcast is just like a venue, to also promote it and help people too, because I'm big into mental health. And I recently went to China.
Very cool.
Yeah, I was in Samin in the Fujian province. That was an experience, my man.
I'll bet. What was the weirdest thing you ate?
Yeah, I know. I look like Godzilla over there because I'm 6'3", 250. So it's massive. The firefighters over there are quite different because they're all small frame. They're all into cardio, but they cannot pick up heavy weight. So I was the patient most of the time, and they should struggle. They don't usually wait.
Yeah, I can imagine. Absolutely. Yeah,
everything is different.
Andre the Giant over there.
Yeah, but it's funny. I find out that outside the US, the RIT concept is completely foreign.
Really?
Yeah, they do Mayday. In Europe especially, they focus on Mayday, but when you talk about RIT, hit and miss. A lot of countries are great on it. Germany started to do RIT. Poland, they have a really good system for RIT. But outside that, they're growing. You can actually make a team to do RIT.
Does that have anything to do with resources and how quickly other resources can get on scene?
Yes, I know, because a lot is volunteer, a lot is pay firefighters, and the equipment. They don't have NFPA standards, so we
there you go.
So we have that. So no matter which brand of SCBA, you have some type of connection. So just in case, they don't have that in Europe or in Asia.
I gotcha. Okay.
So it's not standardized like us. So it's kind of hard to implement, but you can modify it. But it's a hard concept over there. They sell the idea, hey, you need a group of guys or everybody train on RIT, so something happened, you can help your partner. It's great to do Mayday, but
well, that's cool, man. That's neat because you're just never going to be you're never going to get the integer that tells you how many people, how many lives, how many firefighters that your training and your company have prevented from
Yeah.
tragedy. You know, I mean, you're never going to know just how big your impact is, but you might get some. I mean, you know, you might get some data someday if you start to see, you know,
Yeah,
firefighter
that's another
fatalities
thing. Like,
falling. But that's an
we
amazing project, man. That's an
yeah, we
amazing
have
project.
here, we have NIOSH, we have OSHA, we got an FBA.
Mm,
Outside the US, they don't have that.
yeah,
So it's kind of hard to pick any data.
there you go. Yeah,
It is hard. But South America, for example, that I've been in Chile, they're great on they don't have to sell the idea. They just don't have the equipment or resources.
wild.
Yeah, so they know what is red and they want to try, but like they got everything donated. So they got equipment from Europe, equipment from US, and they don't match.
Mm,
So imagine having a red pack for Draeger, but you have a Scott SCBA from the US.
yeah.
So it
Line
is,
all that up would be a challenge.
yeah,
But
like doing VMR with an axe and Halligan because they don't have hydraulics. That's a
that's
long day.
crazy. You know, it's a long day. It's
That's a
like
long day.
your knuckles are gonna hurt, your shoulders. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
wild, man. You know, we tend as people just to get so stuck in our own narrative, our own situation that we forget how lucky we are to have it. You know, I mean, we really are fortunate to be
We
just
are.
part of this
Like like
country.
like
You
having
know.
you the foundation helping people like that is not common outside the US. It is not. So having you in on the podcast and hopefully somebody outside the US, because in the US now it's getting normal, talking about mental health, talking
Hmm.
about meditation, tools for your toolbox. It is not normal outside the US.
Yeah.
Like it's still taboo.
Well, congratulations to you, man, for being part of that bridge. I mean, I think that's really cool to what you're doing. How often do you leave the country to go do some training?
Well, lately it's once a month.
Wow.
This
Wow.
year's been busy,
Mm-hmm.
but I started in 2023 with the company and little by little bit building up networking.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been like in this podcast is filmed today, so on Tuesday I'm going to Croatia.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they don't know what is red, so I have to go them and sell the idea. Hey, you can have this training with modified to your equipment, your resources. So it is cool to see people like, oh, you can do this. Yeah, you can actually grab somebody, one of us, and take him out.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
really
because
cool.
it doesn't exist, and you'll be in mental health too. I also talk about mental health and how mental health influence, like in a Mayday call.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most stressful call you can have as a firefighter, especially as a captain or lieutenant, because you have to, command that scene,
Yeah. Yeah.
and your mental health goes out of the window because it's one of us. Period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So having that meditation, having that tool before or after will help you to keep focus on the task that you're doing at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, there's there the difference between being in control of your state of mind and not is just a
It's
matter
huge.
of training, you know,
Yep.
and so few of us actually do anything to train our attention, you know, to in fact we're doing the opposite. You know, so many of us are spending 3 I mean, what does your cell phone what does your screen time notification tell you on Saturdays? You know, 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, you know.
Yeah.
So
You
many of
spend
us
4 hours.
are spending that kind of time on our cell phones. And so much of that is being burned by 10-second video reels, you know, and we're literally training our attention to be about 10 seconds long before
It's
we
just crazy.
have to find something new to occupy our space of awareness, right? Where mindfulness meditation is a way of stripping all that distraction down and just can you hold your attention on the breath for more than one cycle, and you start training that muscle in the mind, and you begin to have better focused attention. You're able to limit distractions from robbing your attention from you. I mean, we all know what it's like to be reading a book and have to
Oh yeah.
reread that paragraph 100 times because your mind just wanders on you, you know. And right now so many of your listeners have probably had to rewind 5 or 6 minutes of this conversation because they got lost doing whatever's they're doing with their hands and totally forgot what we're,
Oh, on
you
the
know.
phone right
Mindfulness can
now.
help all of this, you know.
Yeah.
It can help train your attention in so many different directions to make you a better first responder, to make you more focused and attentive on scene, to allow you to not get push and pull of your emotional states quite as easily. You can be more in command of that dispatch center in your head and not constantly be running around to false traffic and silly calls that you're just constantly being manipulated by within the head. Mindfulness is just a really good way to ground yourself. So,
And that's awesome. That's what you need. Can you give a little tip? Let's say you got 5 minutes on the station. I want to practice meditation. How do you even begin that? Because you know how busy we are. You did the job, and
absolutely.
you've seen it. How do you can integrate the meditation? If you can give a little tip to people, hey, you can start doing this.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So, as far as meditation itself, real quick, I'll answer your question by doing a couple
Yeah, yeah,
definitions here.
of course.
Mindfulness is just a skill. Mindfulness is just a person's ability to be aware of what's happening moment to moment, non-judgmentally. Just be aware of what's going on in your experience. And as silly as that sounds, so many of us are so bad at it. We're so bad at it. And meditation is more or less just like the gym. It's where you go to practice your skill of mindfulness. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So like
Okay.
right now throughout this conversation, I've been distracted by a sensation of thirst, and I have a coffee right here to my left. I've been distracted by my dog over here barking. I've had all these distractions, but I haven't let them break my attention from holding my eye contact with you over this camera, right? Because here I am, a guest on your podcast, a busy firefighter, and you've invited me here. And so I just have the ability to not get distracted by everything else going around me, because this is actually the most important thing I could be doing with my attention. And there's almost nothing short of a bear coming in, when I have a real life-threatening emergency that's
Exactly.
gonna break that for me,
Yeah.
And with my children, so many of us have young kids, and we'll be texting a friend, right? And we'll hold our finger up to our kids and say, "Hold on, I'm texting," telling our child that like our phone is more important than whatever it
Oh,
is they want to tell
it
us,
kills them. It kills them.
and that really is such a all that is lack of attention, is a lack of strength to notice which one of these stimulus is more important and deserving of your undivided and careful attention. And this really is at the heart of what makes meditation so valuable. It's a gift to the people around you, the people who want more mondo in their lives, that isn't constantly between call. You're a busy guy. You have a full career as a firefighter. You have your own business. You have a podcast, and you probably feel at moments where it's hard to stitch and keep all this together. Mindfulness practice really does make it easy to go from mode to mode without feeling like you have to break your attention here as a father to go be the podcast host, come back to being a father, to go take this call for the fire department, to come back to, it just becomes a lot easier to not have to do all that legwork, because what is most important to you at any given moment will be the thing that's going to win out in your attention. And most
That's right.
often that's going to be your wife and your daughter. When you're on shift, it'll probably be your community and your crew, and you almost have more ethical soundness in making those kinds of judgments without feeling like you have to satisfy everybody at all times, because you are just one mind. You are
Yeah.
just one ability. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
as far as how you can get involved on shift, if you want to practice mindfulness on shift, there are all kinds of little things that you can do to practice what it is to be mindful. We all know what it's when we're going to a scene and our lieutenant or our captain turns to us and say, "Hey guys, situational awareness up on this call. We got this going on." We all know what that means. We all know, we've all been practicing this situational awareness tab window within the mind since we were young academy recruits, right? But that's what it's like to be mindful at any given time. Is why do I need to be in any danger or any threat to be situationally aware? Why can't I be situationally aware when I'm drinking a coffee cup? Or why can't I be situationally aware when I'm driving? Probably the most dangerous thing I do day by day, week by week, year by year is driving a damn vehicle, right?
Yeah, it's
So
true.
you can just be more mindful at any given time once you practice the skill. Now, if you want to pick up a meditation practice, obviously, if you're a first responder, I'll suggest foundationfortified.org
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you.
yeah.
But
Exactly.
it's helpful it's helpful when you're starting to pick the same time every day. After you've done it for a while, it doesn't matter when you practice. I'll practice mindfulness in the middle of a park while my kids are playing. I'll do it whenever. But in the beginning, it can be very hard to maintain your attention on the breath. It can be very hard to just do the basic tenets of the practice because you're new to it. So it's helpful to do it at the same time every day. It's helpful to do it at the same place every day. If you're on shifts and you get distracted, you get tones in the middle of your mindfulness practice, understand that that's just another moment of practice, is to put down this practice your meditation and respond in the way that you need to without losing focus in any way. There's the difference in closing your eyes. You're not doing anything when you're meditating. You're just trying to be attentive to whatever mind state's going on. You can practice meditation with your eyes open, closed, standing, walking, sitting, and you can practice all of that at foundationfortified.org. All you're attempting to do is limit distractions for this X amount of minutes while I'm meditating, so that when I get out into the real world, my powers of attention are better. I'm not so pulled by anger. I'm not so pulled by sadness. I'm not so pulled by the shiny objects in my experience. I can be the diligent author of what I feel like needs to be the center of my attention. Does that make sense?
Nice. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So,
And again, how people can find you again?
so foundationfortified.org. You can go to my Instagram under Foundation Fortified, and Facebook is kind of where I'm so far being exposed to.
So far. Yeah, I will put anyway the links for all your stuff on the description. You need to open a TikTok account.
No, I've never done TikTok. I don't know anything about TikTok. I need to get on it though.
That's what the young firefighters are now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, it's the truth, huh?
It sucks because it's adding another stuff to to post and do stuff. But
absolutely,
that's what I found. A lot of people like reaching me out on TikTok or Instagram. Facebook is for us, all people, like really old, ancient people. Is Facebook and Instagram for like the 30s, early 30s, and then TikTok is the young guys.
Well, I still use or MySpace, so.
Oh no,
you
bro!
Can find my Foundation Fortified MySpace.
Yeah, you're for 1960s, around there, way back. Yeah, I've been called old. They're like, oh crap, because I'm using Facebook.
Are you MySpace old? Instagram old?
Yeah, exactly. My daughter, I got two daughters, 7 and 5, and the big one is just like, is that Facebook? What is that? Like, oh my god, I can't believe that. God, I feel so old.
Brutal, isn't it? I mean, it was not brutal. Like this 50 years ago. Things did not happen this quick. I mean, you really are defined within a decade based on your social media platform of preference. It's like,
or when you listen to the radio and you listen to like Guns N' Roses, it's just classics. Oh Jesus.
Classics.
That hurts.
Golden oldies,
that's the golden oldies. Yeah, listen to Nirvana, like Pantera, or one of those. Like, okay, I guess I'm old.
Good one. Yeah.
Oh, I love him. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to System of a Down in August. I have to go to New Jersey.
Very good.
To see them because they don't like Florida weather. I guess it's too hot for them.
They don't like that humidity. They come out here to this dry heat in Phoenix.
Yeah, they go. Yeah, dry heat. Yeah. I've been in close to you. I was in Las Vegas. Well, kind of, because I took a class for the nuclear bombs something, whatever. Because I'm part of the special people, special powers, the special ops.
Very good.
You're the technical rescue guys.
We're firefighters. We're all part of the special people.
Yeah, special people. Yeah, and I have to go to Las Vegas for a week, and I felt the dry heat is horrible. My nose was burning.
It's insane.
I'm not used to it.
It's weird. It really does feel like I'm cooking. I'm somewhat cooking right now.
Yeah, I felt the breeze, but I was hot, and like this is weird. I'm not used to the type of heat.
Yeah,
it took me a little bit to get used to my dry nose, oh, it's horrible. Drinking water all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, but yeah, bro, it is what you do is a great job. Hopefully, we can bring in all around the world. I would love to take you with me because because it's true. Like they don't talk about it. They even meditation, anything, just to be focused. That alone is a big accomplishment if you can do it.
Yeah, I'm hoping to continue. Like you said earlier, I would love to someday be able to offer my services to specific police departments or fire departments or EMS agencies, dispatch center. They want to bring me out and help teach their staff how to be mindful and practice a little bit of mindfulness. In fact, tomorrow, have you heard of Runestone Ranch by chance?
No, not yet. I will now.
Okay, so Runestone Ranch is a first responder wellness retreat that they're trying to build.
Oh, wow.
And get off the ground in California and Oakland. And so they got shooting range out there. They got equestrian. They got therapy. They have all fishing. They have all kinds of hiking. They have all kinds of stuff for first responders to get away from the stress. And I offer my services to them. I said, I'd love to be your guys' meditation instructor. So tomorrow, actually, I'm flying to Oakland, California to meet with the board and talk about how maybe we can get some sort of mindfulness meditation retreat for first responders off the ground. And that'd be really cool. So
congratulations.
That's what I'm up to tomorrow. So
Congratulations.
Trying.
Hopefully you can bring him to the East Coast, not just the West Coast people.
Sounds like a plan, brother. Sounds like a plan.
Hopefully. And then with that, well, bro, it's almost an hour just talking, and it's awesome. I got a question for you. For those about to retire, you know the firefighters are salty as fuck, and they just like hate the world. What do you recommend to them? About to retire or in retirement, just to be focused. What are you a tip you would tell them to that salty firefighter? Like, you know how it is.
I because my career didn't end in the way that I wanted it to. You know what I mean? It ended kind of in a just not the way I wanted. I've accepted. I moved on, but I guess the only thing I'd say about retirement so far is that you'd be surprised at how, if you want to stay engaged in the community of first responders, regardless of whether or not you have a retired in front of your name or your active duty, very few people care as long as you continue to be the first responder and the advocate for first responders that you have been throughout your entire career. That was very difficult for me for my first 6 months or so when it was coming to the conclusion that I was not going to be able to make it back to the fire truck. This is my whole life. These are my people. Like, how am I going to, once I say I'm retired, are people going to all of a sudden think and that's just not true. You know what I mean? Most first responders love retired first responders almost more than the active duty guys.
Yeah, you're less salty.
I think a lot of firefighters are afraid of that. They're afraid of losing the connection. They're afraid of losing the friends. They're afraid of losing, and it'll be different. But you don't have to lose anything if you don't want to. You can stay engaged. You can stay active. You can stay within the first responder community, retired or not. So I think that'd be my best piece of advice.
Awesome. And one last thing, who do you recommend to be in the podcast from your world, whatever you know?
You would have to have Erin Jane on your podcast. Erin Jane Coaching. She's another. So I host a radio show on the Thin Line Rock Station. So the Thin Line Rock Station is a first responder radio station that your listeners can find. It's a first responder. It's got a couple cops that run it. You can just go to the Thin Line Rock Station. You can download the app. You can listen live on the radio. It's all for free. I host a radio program, and a woman I met about a year ago, her name is Erin Jane. She's from Australia. She's a first responder coach, mental health coach, and she's married to a firefighter. Anyway, I met her through my Foundation Fortified. We became friends, and then she also joined the radio station. And she is just too much fun, bro. She is just too much fun. You have to have her on. I'll send you an email with her contact information. You have to get to know her. She's a riot. Yeah. She's great.
Awesome. How do you guys find out how people can find that radio station? Again, which app they have to download, and how is the things to download that app? So
the best way I know how is to either go to your app store, the Thin Line Rock Station. So like the thin blue line, thin red line, right? The thinlinerockstation.com to find the website, and then the Thin Line Rock Station app for your app store. So
awesome. And before we go again, last time, how people can find you?
FoundationFortified.org is my website, and I have an Instagram and a Facebook under the same handles.
Sweet. Actually, try to promote it, bro.
That's I appreciate it. No, I appreciate it.
That's what it is. I learned a couple tricks doing different podcasts with different people. So, all right, let's bring it.
Repetition.
Repetition works. Repetition works, and you know that more than I
am. True. I guess there's a lot of truth to that. Yep.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Josh, for being here. For giving me a little space in your time. Just to hopefully we can do a second episode, and like I said, hopefully I can bring you to the East Coast at some point.
That sounds great.
I do know some people called the Mental Project or the Mental Health Project. I don't know if you heard about them. I might send you the link. So they actually do academy because they focus about mental health, how to be not like you, but it's more conscious about mental health. And they go to fire academies. They might know somebody. You know how it is.
Networking. Yeah, that sounds like a contact I'd be interested in.
Yeah, so I will send you the contact. His name is Gaelic. I think he lives between Colombia and here.
Oh, perfect. Okay, all right.
Yeah. so it's perfect. And they travel around the world and they travel around the United States.
Yeah, I'd love to meet him.
So I will send the contact so you guys can hopefully do something together, because I think you have a great tool for fire academy orientation in the fire departments. I mean, you can go anywhere with that, because it's true. We need it.
We need it. I agree. Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words.
You're welcome, bro. Anytime. And with that, thank you so much. People that listen to the podcast, you can share, like, subscribe, all that. For those who don't speak English, I put subtitles because I have a lot of those who doesn't speak in English, so I have to put subtitles in Spanish. So my bad for the translation. Sometimes it doesn't translate the way we want it to, but that's how it is.
It is what it is.
It's what it is, bro. That's AI. They're taking over the world.
It's true.
Yeah. And with that, thank you so much, and see you in the next one. Take care, bro.
Thank you.